when there's clear roles and responsibility, we can hold each other accountable. So if our flip's not doing well, if they taking too long, we're not making the money we're supposed to make on that, that falls on me. If our rental property's not being rented, we have vacancies, we're not maximizing the cash flow, we're not maximizing the rental income, that falls on Germ. So it helps us run a more efficient and help us run a better operation. Welcome to another edition of the Expose and Expand podcast show. I'm the man with the plan, Jeremy Mathis. I'm your other host, Joshua. I'm going to give you the game, Mathis, and welcome to the Expose and Expand podcast show, where we expose you to the ideas, the strategies, the struggles, the failures, the people, and the experiences that have gotten us from zero to millions. So in the last episode, at the end of it, we said we may or may not have a part two. And we decided we got to have a part two. So if you didn't watch episode 15, you need to go watch episode 15 because we talked about business maturity. And business maturity, as defined in the Mathis dictionary, are the lessons and experiences turned into principles on the everlasting journey to pursue greatness in business. We broke down all of the principles, not all of them. We broke down some of the principles that we use to operate our business and our life, and those principles came from business maturity. So if you didn't go watch the last episode, you need to watch episode 15 because we're about to pick it up today and we about to put Josh to the test to see if that boy really can get a game, how you say he can get a game. You remember what happened March 2020? Who don't remember what happened March 2020? That was a moment that changed our life and changed our business forever. And we learned one of the most valuable lessons in business. And that's the first point we want to make was make sure and ensure that you have cash reserves in your business. So for you guys that don't remember, March 2020 was when COVID really happened. It happened earlier in the year, but March 2020 is when the NBA shut down their game. I believe it was the Jazz playing the Oklahoma City Thunders. And when they said, hey, we're canceling this game, I don't know about you, but for me, it clicked. Because if a multi-billion-dollar corporation says, hey, we're not going to generate revenue tonight, for me, that opened up my eyes. And at that point in our business, we was running. We was doing a lot of deals. But at the same time, we was always running short on cash. We always had no more than 2 months of operating cash flow in our bank account. So at that moment, for me, I started to think, we have employees. Can we pay these people? These people have families, and they're relying on us. We had several flips going on at the time. At that time, we was easily doing 7-8 houses at a time, plus buying more, selling some. So we was asking ourselves, if we shut down, we still have mortgages on these properties. We still have holding costs on these properties. Our employees or our contractors are not supposed to be working. How are we going to get the money to float this through? We had several rental properties. If tenants stopped paying, we still have mortgages on these properties. So that was a big wake-up call for us because we didn't have enough reserves. We had to operate off lines of credits and credit cards to get us by for a couple of months until we figured out what was going to happen with COVID. So for me, that was a very scary moment for us, but that was a moment that allowed us to mature in business to help us understand the importance of having cash reserves in your business. Huge principle that we had to learn from experience, right? That was a huge struggle at that point during COVID because it was very scary, like Josh said, where it was sleepless nights for me. It was calling mentors. Hey, should we sell the rental property? Should we do this? We need cash. What should we do? And that all happened from not having cash reserves. Like, I want to touch on it and drive the point deeper that, guys, we had to operate off a lot of stress and anxiety, not having cash reserves, and having to use lines of credits and credit cards to operate the business for those 2 to 3 months to help us get by. So for us, that was a huge lesson that we had to learn and something that I cherish to this day and always say, well, we better have some cash reserves in our bank account. One thing that you said was we had to operate out of stress and anxiety. And you're right, it was stress and anxiety. But the point I want to make for the audience is when you're operating out of stress and anxiety, you can't make sound business decisions. When you don't have cash to really operate your business, you can't make sound business decisions. And for us, I remember certain times we've made decisions during that time where we didn't have the cash reserves that wasn't in the best interest of the business. It was just more so we looking at the bank account and saying, what do we have? And we made a lot of, I don't want to say bad decisions, but we made some decisions during that point that was not good for the business. But luckily we learned, and we here today, guys, to share the experiences of how your boy had to get us out, because Josh led us down a deep rabbit hole in that bad time. But whew, yeah, but as I think about it, it's just like, man, that was a stressful moment for us. Very, very stressful. But another stressful moment that I thought about as far as not having cash reserves was when we brought the 12 units. Now, if you guys been following us on social media, you know that we were able to get a great deal on 12 units. The 12 units where we were going to buy rental properties, or we brought a rental property and it had 12 units. Excuse me. And long story short, met the guy in Home Depot. We got the guy to seller finance the deal, but part of him seller financing the deal was we had to put money down. He was like, listen, I will be the bank and I will finance you guys, but you got to put at least 10% down. Everything happens for a reason. 10% is what on that deal he wanted 20%. He really wanted 20%, but we negotiated down to 10 because 10 was all we had. 10% of the purchase price was all we had. And I remember like it was yesterday, looking at our bank account, we had $153,000 in our bank account, and that was 10% of the purchase price on that deal. And he said, guys, listen, I'm doing you a huge favor. If you want this deal, you got to give me at least 10%. I got to see that you guys are serious about making this happen. So us being who we are, we took a risk. We closed on the property, but prior to closing on the property, we did an inspection. We got into 10 out of the 12 units during that inspection. And I wish we would have gotten all of them, because once we closed on the property, those 2 units that we didn't get inside, we now see why the owner didn't want us to get inside of those properties. One of them, the ceiling had a huge hole in it, and the hole and that ceiling in it, it caved in 2 months after we purchased the property. So that was an issue that we had to deal with. Again, not having any reserves to deal with it. And the other unit, the tenant, it had so many issues in it, and they threatened to call like some environmental agencies and the police if we didn't fix up the unit, because the unit was such rough shape and they didn't want to move out. I remember having a conversation with the tenant and feeling weak and feeling weak, because he's like, listen, man, if you don't get this fixed for me within this next week, I'm telling you, you guys are going to have problems. And my contractor was there. We walk outside the unit. He was like, bro, this is going to be very expensive. I just told him to give me a moment. And I remember just feeling real sick at the time. And I just walked away from my contractor. I sat on the sidewalk and I just started crying, like literally crying like a baby, because we had no cash reserves to fix any of the issues that we had brought on. Prior to buying this building, we had this mindset of we're going to operate off the cash flow from the business. We're going to operate off the cash flow from these 12 units, and the cash flow is going to pay us, help us operate the company, and pay any expenses that were going to come up, because we got a great deal on it. But once we purchased that property, everything happened at one time, and it was another moment of darkness for us where we had to really work our way out of it. Luckily, through wealthy relationships, which we talked about in episode 3, the contractor did work for us, not for free, but he said, listen, you guys are good people. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to do this work for you guys, but you guys owe me this money, and pay me when you guys get the money. But it was a scary situation that if we didn't have a wealthy relationship with our contractor, we probably would have lost the building, probably would have lost everything that we had, because all that we had was tied up in that building. But luckily for us, God made a way, and we're here to talk about it today. One thing that you said was we had $153,000 in our bank account. We didn't have $153,000 in our bank account. And this is a lesson that we gave in episode 15. We counted the pennies, we counted the money before we had it in our bank account. So we was closing, we had a flip, it was on the market, and we was getting ready to sell that flip. And we was like, yeah, we'll make about 80 to 90 grand profit. We already have about 60 to 70. So once this flip closes, we'll have enough cash to close to be able to fund the down payment for the building. Yes. So guys, we talked about that on episode 15. Don't count the money before it's in your bank account. Yes. So by the grace of God, the deal closed on time, the flip closed on time, so we had the money to pay for the down payment. But another point that I want to make, or another lesson that I want to give is, another principle that I want to give is, don't take money out of your operating business, out of your cash flowing business, to fund an investment. So for us, that's one of the biggest issues I feel like we've had for a long time. I feel like our business would be much bigger. I feel like we'd be more profitable if we didn't take money from our cash flowing business to fund these outside investments that we had no control over. So there are several times where we've taken money from our core business as opposed to reinvesting that money back into the business, and we've putting it into investments that we have no control over, investments that we didn't know if we was gonna make a return on, investments that have since all freaking failed on us. So guys, principle number 2, don't take money out of your cash flowing business to put it into an investment that is speculative, an investment that you have no control over. To talk more about that, so we were operating our real estate business, doing wholesales and flips, bringing in six figures a month in profit, and always having shiny object syndrome led us to a path of slow destruction. It really was a path to slow destruction because we got into a couple of situations where we got money coming in, said, you know what, here's an opportunity to buy Amazon stores. So we're going to take money out of our cash flowing business, our real estate operation, as opposed to reinvesting it and growing the business bigger. We taking money out, putting it in speculative investment. Amazon store failed, over $100,000 down the drain. Forex trading bots.
Yes.
We took over 300 grand.
Yes.
From our cash flowing business at several different phases.
No, it was only 200. It was only 200.
We gave 150 to one.
Oh.
We gave 150 to another. No, I'm sorry, it was 100. So it was 250. You're right. We took 250,000 from our real estate investing business, as opposed to as Jerm just stated, as opposed to reinvesting that money back into the business, as opposed to reinvesting that money into our team to help them grow. We took that money out of the company and put it in these Forex trading bots. For the first month and a half, oh man, this was a great investment. First couple months, it was doing well. And then before you know it, money lost. Another thing that we did, like everybody else, crypto. FOMO. We had FOMO. Everybody talking big about crypto. We took money out of our cash flowing business and put into speculative investment, something that we had no control over, something that we didn't have full knowledge of. We put money into crypto, lost another 6 figures in that. So guys, we're giving you these principles so that you don't have to go through the struggles that we've had to go through. Make sure you have reserves in your business. And do not take money. Again, do not take money out of your operating business and put it into speculative investments that you have no control over until you are at a point where you have the capacity to do that. Speaking of the capacity to do that, when do you think somebody should take money out of their operating business to put it into speculative investments? I think you should start taking money out of your operating business once you've grown the business to a point where you're no longer needed to operate the business. You take money out of the business at a point where if you continue, because you can make investments back into your business, but there's a point where there's diminishing returns. So when you get to that point, then I feel like it's okay to start taking money out of the business. But for us, the business still needed us to operate. We were still in there, getting things done. So we took that money out way too early. We could have used that money to hire people, to get more training, to go to more masterminds, to get around the right people to help us grow and scale the business. You said diminishing returns. Who you stole that word from? That word too big for you, my boy. My boy, can you spell it? I can spell it, my boy. But I'm happy that we're able to sit here and joke and be able to have and converse the way that we are. But it took us a long time to get to this point, and that didn't happen until we came up with our next principle, which was having clear roles and responsibilities. Prior to us having clear roles and responsibilities, our conversations wasn't all jokey, laughy. It was shoot me one, square up, let's fight to see who can do what needs to be done. If we being real, I was gonna beat you this morning, my boy. I don't know about all that now. But another principle that you guys need to take down and take heed to this is make sure you have clear roles and responsibilities for everybody within your organization. And if you have a business partner, with your business partner, even if you have a marriage, everybody needs to have clear roles and responsibilities. And obviously this is a business show, so we want to focus on why it's important to have clear roles and responsibilities in business. I think that we, for a long time, we've been in business now for 14, 15 years. And for the first 12 years, It wasn't clear roles and responsibilities, and that created chaos for us in our business. That created confusion within our business. That created several times where I'm like, what? I don't know if this is the partnership for me, because there was no clear roles and responsibilities. But thankfully, we had the right mentors, and they set us down and they helped us understand that, guys, you can't operate a business if everybody is doing the same thing. Everyone in your business needs to have a singular focus, one thing or a few things that they're focused on that they're going to be held accountable for if they're going to grow the business. So for us, let me break that down for you guys. In our fix and flip business, I'm in charge of all things flipped. Before, we both wanted to be in charge of flips. So it took us 3 weeks to decide what color we was going to paint the house. Or it took us another 2 weeks to decide what type of kitchen we were going to put into the house. So not only did our flips take longer, but we made less money because our holding costs were higher. But we got to a point where we started to understand that we need clear roles and responsibilities. So we sat down and says, hey, Josh, for our real estate investing business, you are in charge of our flips. Jerm's in charge of our rentals. With these clear roles and responsibilities, there's a lot of things that Jerm does with our rentals that I don't like, that I don't agree with. But we are aligned in our visions, and Jerm is making a decision that's in alignment with the visions. And the same thing with our flips. It's a lot of decisions. We had a little tick for tack earlier today when it came to listing a house. I'm in charge of our fix and flips. I wanted to list the house at one price. Jerm said no. I said, hey, I'm in charge. And he had to shut his mouth. Your man had to.
I don't know about all that. I don't know about all the putting the foot down, but no, that's a great point. And guys, we're giving you real life examples of why it's important to have clear roles and responsibilities. This was something that I was adamant about. He did his research on what was happening in the area. I did my research on what was happening in the area. I feel like Josh wanted to be a little bit too aggressive on the price, but at the end of the day, the decision is his to be made. I could give my input, and you better believe your boy gonna give his input. But at the end of the day, when it comes to flips, we've defined our roles and responsibilities, and that has made our communication better. That has made our relationship better. That has made everything better because we know at the end of the day, like Josh said, we have the same vision. That don't mean we're going to agree on everything, but I know that certain decisions that are made has to be made by Josh because he's in control of it. Certain decisions have to be made by me because I'm in control of it, and that's something that we have to live with. So don't just take this principle and just think it's going to work itself out. You're gonna go through some bumps. You're gonna go through some humps and bumps. You're gonna have to overcome a lot of chaos, if you will. But because at first, you think about it, it took us some time to get comfortable in our roles, to get comfortable with making a decision, because for so long we had shared responsibilities and making decisions in certain areas of our business, and then once we finally put our foot down and said, you know what, this is what it is, became better. So and guys, the key thing about clear roles and responsibility were two things is, number one, decisions can be made much faster, right? We're not sitting back and forward waiting to make decisions. I'm in charge of our flips, so I need to make a decision fast. Jerm is in charge of our rentals. He can make a decision fast. And the other point of that is, as far as clear roles and responsibility, is accountability. Yeah. Right? When there's clear roles and responsibility, we can hold each other accountable. Yeah. So if our flip's not doing well, if they taking too long, we're not making the money we're supposed to make on that falls on me. If our rental property's not being rented, we have vacancies, we're not maximizing the cash flow, we're not maximizing the rental income, that falls on Jerm. So it helps us run a more efficient and help us run a better operation. So another principle that I want to talk about is slow, thoughtful decision making. And that's a principle that we've had to get much better at, because we've always heard and we've always believed you got to move with speed, you got to move with speed, you got to move fast. And I do think you need to move fast, but I also think you need to be thoughtful in your decisions, because so often me and Josh have put ourselves in bad situations because we didn't carefully think out our entire decision. We woke up one morning, this is how I'm feeling, so I'm finna go out and I'm finna get that done. And because of us making those bad decisions, it's put us in bad predicaments. So now when we're making decisions, and when you make decisions, you need to be very thoughtful in it. You don't need to be making rash decisions, waking up and saying, you know what, this is how I feel, so I'm finna go out and do this. And I brought this up because of a conversation that we had this morning, where I said, you know what, we got to get better at how we plan. We got to really sit down and really start thinking our decisions through and really building out something that could sustain us in the future. Another thing about making thoughtful decisions is when you make a thoughtful decision, more than likely you've gotten the input from other people. We've changed decisions that we thought we were going to make when we went and talked to other people, other mentors that gave us some insight. Like, hey guys, you probably don't need to be doing that. You're wasting your time. Hey guys, you probably need to slow down because this ain't working out. You guys ain't making money on this. So why are you still doing it? So when you are operating in business, you need to make sure that you are thinking all your decisions through and it's well thought out and not just making a rash decision.
To your point, I want to give them another principle that just came to mind is you want to be able to make a decision but separate yourself from the result. Because too often people make decisions and sometimes it may not be the right decision, and that decision ends up having you allows you to get the result that you was not anticipating, and sometimes that crushes people. It crushes your confidence and you feel like you can't move on, because in business sometimes it's business. You're not going to always make the right decisions, but you need to be able to separate yourself from the result, whether it's good or bad, because sometimes you make a great decision and that decision gives you the desired result, and you live on that high horse too long and you feel like, yeah, I scored the game point. My God, that was 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And you still riding that wave. Or you say, hey, my business failed. That was 15 years ago, and you don't give yourself an opportunity to try again.
That was real. Boy, about time you coming through for the team. That was a good one right there.
Then I say the champ is here. The champ is here.
Listen, I think that was a huge point, because so often people, they hold themselves back in life because they are so concerned about the outcome, which we don't. If for us, we're strong believers in God. We had to understand that if we really believe in God, we cannot predict the future. All we could do is make a decision, move by faith, and put in the works and see what the outcome is. So often people are crushing their dreams. They are stopping their life. They are messing up their family legacy because they're so attached to a potential outcome that they don't know whether it's going to come true or whether it's not going to happen or not. So great point by Josh. He finally put some points on the board. He finally helped out the team today.
One thing you said too is we make a decision, we move by faith. Yes, guys, we believe in God, but if you make a data-driven decision, is it really much faith that you have to, put out there in order after you make that decision? Because we talked about it on episode 15. Let data, not drama. So if the data does the talking for you, if the numbers tell you, hey, you should go left.
But not all decisions are going to be able to have data.
Correct.
So don't think that every decision you make is going to be driven by data. If there is data, yes, let the data drive your decision, not your emotions. But every decision you make ain't gonna have no data for you to make a decision. But always make the decision and remove yourself from the outcome. Remove your emotions from the outcome. Detach yourself from that, because if not, I'm telling you, you're going down you're going to go down a long, dark road if you don't learn how to do that. That's something that we had to learn. And that's something that a mentor, I remember sitting in his office, Lopez, we talked about him on a couple episodes. Yep. He was like, bro, one thing that I do well in business, because we asked him, what's one thing that has helped you so much in business and you see young business owners struggle with? And he told us that. Credit to him. Make a decision and detach yourself from the outcome. That way you can operate and do what it is that you need to do. Yeah. So another principle, last one that I want to talk about, is effective communication. Yep. You got to know how to effectively communicate so that you can get things done. So often in the past, Josh and I would have team members, our employees, we would tell them to do something. They would go back and do it, and they come back, and that's not what we asked for. And we struggle with that. That slowed us down in business. We wasted money, time, and energy because of us being poor communicators. And we didn't learn that until we kept having to go through that struggle, kept having to bump our head against the wall. We went to go talk to some mentors, like, man, our employees can never get things done. Was it that they cannot get things done, or you guys are not effectively communicating to them? Are you guys not helping them clearly know what the desired outcome is and how they can get there and what they need to do? So one of the principles that we had to learn, one of the struggles we had to overcome, was how to effectively communicate. And guys, we still a work in progress. We are still a work in progress. If you've been listening to these episodes, you know our communication skills getting better and better.
We're gonna stumble over a few words.
We gonna say accurate. We gonna say what's your Lee? Josh put Lee at the end of Josh be making up words.
My God, when you that man like I am, you can make up words and they sound good, my boy. But one thing about effective communication, and one thing that I'm learning is when I'm communicating with people, I want to talk to them as if they're a second grader. Because if you're talking to someone, you're communicating with someone as if they're a second grader, you have to dumb down so they understand exactly what it is that you're saying. But sometimes you have to overly communicate what you're. Yeah, that's the Lee. Overly, overly. You have to over communicate what it is that you're saying to make sure that people understand what it is that you're trying to communicate with them.
Boy, finally stacked up for the team. But let me just recap the principles in this episode. And guys, again, make sure you do yourself a favor and go listen to episode 15, part 1 of business maturity, to go and understand those principles. But in today, just to recap the principles, have reserves for the unknown. Don't take money out of your cash flow business and invest in something you don't know. Make sure you have clear roles and responsibilities. Effectively communicate with all of your employees and your team members and everyone in your life. Be slow and have thoughtful decisions. And the last principle, and I think one of the most important, is make a decision and separate yourself from the outcome. So, guys, we gave you some principles that we've had to learn from lessons and through experience. And guys, make sure you apply these principles. Make sure you apply these principles to your life. They are extremely helpful for us, and I know they'll be extremely helpful to you if you apply them. And as always, guys, we have our gentleman's agreement. Our gentleman's agreement is, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment. We always are watching and looking at the comments. We are replying to the comments. And also part of that gentleman's agreement, if you're listening on a podcast player like Apple or Spotify, make sure you hit that follow button. Leave us a comment. Leave us 5 stars. It helps us. It helps the show continue to grow. And also share this show with people that need to hear it. We're exposing you to all of the things that got us from 0 to millions. And today and last episode, we exposed you to some struggles. So take this, use it in your life, and go out and be great.
Jerm said it all, guys. Make sure you guys go out and share with other people. As you guys know, our core message is exposure leads to expansion. Expose somebody else to this. If you really rock with somebody, if you care with them, expose them to these episodes. Expose them to this show so that they can expand. Expose and expand, guys. Peace.
Expose and expand. Peace.